Think of a movie genre that has dominated the box office in recent years. Movies in this genre feature a large cast of unique characters in extraordinary situations, filled with action and drama. Superhero cinema has made a large impact on audiences and reached box office success. And this has inspired tons of fan behavior like fan fiction, fan art, RPGs, and cosplays. One constant throughout all of these activities is the prevalence of the OC, or an original character created by fans. Original characters represent the pinnacle of audience interaction with and connection to superhero cinema, as they're often an extension of the individual who made them. And today, we will be exploring how original characters are made, where they're shared, and why exactly people have such an affinity with placing themselves into superhero films. To begin our deep dive of the original character, it's first necessary to get to know a little bit about what they are. And in the beginning, I mentioned that they could be used in fan fiction, fan art, roleplay games, and cosplay. But for the sake of this video, I will be discussing mostly fan fiction and fan art. In all these situations, original characters look a bit different, but the general overarching Wikipedia definition of the term refers to characters in a fanwork that are not in the source media but have been created by the fanwork's author.
She does not talk to anybody. She is very much on her own.
I can lift myself up and make myself fly. Like, do you hear that? I can make myself fly.
Okay, so let's start with fan fiction. Fan fiction is, according to research, a unique form of writing in which fans base their stories on the characters and plot lines of existing media and popular culture.
There's original character fan fictions, which were my personal favourite when I was growing up.
One such avenue for sharing fan fiction online is Wattpad, a website which hosts the world's largest amount of user-generated fiction of any website. And on Wattpad, basically you can write a story, post it, and then other people can read the story, comment on it, and interact with you through profiles. This collaborative environment allows for someone to put their original character within the context of the original material, whether that be the plot or characters, and then receive feedback from people and share it with them. On the other hand, fan art is much easier to share on any social media platform because it just takes place in the form of a photo. However, I'm going to be focusing on Tumblr since it's really specifically known for fan content and fandom. Usually, fan art on Tumblr is limited only to a character design and a short description of that character because they do not have as much words to put it in the context of the original text as fanfiction writers do. And then people who see these posts can interact with them, reblog them onto their own page, comment any suggestions, or use them as inspiration for their own original characters. But why? Why are superhero original characters so popular? Why are people so obsessed with finding a place for themselves within films that they watch? And why superheroes? At their core, original characters are a product of an individual's imagination and creative expression. They often share some characteristics with the person who made them, and because of this are an extension of themselves and create a deeper connection between the superhero media and the person. Through an original character, a person can imagine a place for themselves within the story and interact with all of the elements around it, like plot and characters. This is really important because outside of original characters and fan fiction, a person can only really consume superhero media and media as a whole. They don't really have any say in what decisions are made surrounding the plot, characters, or the direction of the story. But this active participation goes even further when people post their original characters on the internet and they take on a life outside of that person's own imagination. By sharing them and by actively participating, everyone on the internet can help manipulate the meaning of the original text. Sharing these characters online makes them closer to the original canon of the story, and because superheroes aren't real people, they're just based on the creator's imagination, they only exist in the audience's collective consciousness. And when you share an original character, if it's seen by enough people, it can get fairly close to that as well. And ultimately, the goal of creating original characters in the first place is this idea that they could become real, or they could have a place among the original source material. Now, why superheroes in particular are such a common concept for original characters. I focused a lot about fandom in general in this video, but superhero fandom specifically has been really popular lately, and part of that is because of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been started in 2008 and it has been extremely popular. Basically, if you're not familiar, all of the Marvel Studios films fall into what is called the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU. Basically, this means that every film Marvel puts out takes place on one timeline, and they all have to make sense in relation to the other films. Any event that happens in one has to have happened in the others as well. Because of this, world building plays a crucial part in the MCU, and there's a huge universe with lots of characters and a lot of stuff going on, and a rich canon source material. But creating such a rich and large-scale universe is really important to the creation of original characters, because it gives people a sense that they would have a place for themselves within it. Whether within pre-existing films or as a spin-off of some kind, original characters often address universe-wide events and exist on the margins of existing original content. And if that's confusing, I have an example. So here is Sar. He's an original character created by Strook on Tumblr, and he exists within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sar is an ex-Hydra agent, which ties him to power structures within the MCU timeline, and he also meets the Winter Soldier somewhere within the series Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which aired on Disney+. This ties Sar's character in nicely to the Marvel timeline, and makes it likely that his story will follow some aspects and elements of the Winter Soldiers. In addition to the universe-wide approach, making original characters more applicable to superhero films, there's also this focus on groups and the many members within them. So for superhero groups, you have the X-Men, the Avengers, and the My Hero Academia classes, which are all large groups that someone could imagine a spot for themselves within. They seem to suggest that under certain conditions, a person's character could easily join this group as another member, and because of this they could also interact with all of the members. And on to the final point, which might seem very obvious, but that is that superheroes are just really cool. The idea of having extraordinary superpowers, along with this association with like morality and bravery, makes superheroes really appealing to fans. And the main appeal of superhero cinema at large is wish fulfillment. Seeing what somebody could be, seeing the Superman mythic type character who always acts morally, always does the right thing and saves people. So for fans, superheroes are a way to imagine themselves within this role. They can come up with their own superpower that's like their dream superpower, and they can have like this rich, exciting backstory that builds a really interesting character. As I stated before, most of the sharing of original characters takes place on the internet. It's a really important resource because it connects people on a global scale, and they can share with anyone in the whole entire world. It makes it a lot easier to find niche communities that would once be really hard to find, and content about certain fandoms that if you were just in person, you might not know anybody who knows of that thing or is a fan of that thing as well. In this way, the internet makes being a fan of a specific piece of media more appealing because you also have more people to share that with, and that excitement and that really genuine interest in that thing. And I have a quote here from a book on fandom studies that says, "Modern fandoms are imagined communities fostered by technologies that enable geographically dispersed people to overcome time and distance in forging virtual communities of affect." As you can imagine, having access to this shows people that they're not alone, whether in their fandoms, their personal struggles or problems, and like in anything, it just helps people feel a greater sense of community and belonging. Specifically, this takes place with the younger generation, and I have a quote from an essay here that says, "Social media platforms provide teens with both personal and social spaces that are not easily policed by their parents, and they employ a variety of platforms to achieve different kinds of private spaces." So social media is really important to teens because it allows them to grow independently of their parents and express their individuality through their interests. But more generally, it's a really crucial tool to the formation of niche fandoms and communities and circulation of fan content. For superheroes and other types of media-related fandom, Tumblr is a really important platform for teens. It allows for the use of pseudonyms and a sense of security that is really important because most of its users are teenagers. And it's also designed in a way that gives you creative control over the design of your page. You don't have to rely on an algorithm to choose what posts you'll see. You can easily search for fandoms and communities that resonate with you and that you want to interact with. Both of these contribute to the site's popularity and make it much easier to share niche fandoms and fan content online. And superheroes specifically have become immensely popular on Tumblr. It makes up some of the top content on there. And sharing original characters is one of these things that has become super popular. So I have an example to share with you. This is a character made by Phoenix and Raptor Arts named Timberwolf, and he's a superhero, and you can see here that there's a lot of background information, and it has like a character sheet. So there's the design, there's the background and personality, and it gives a very good walkthrough of who this original character is. Countless other people have created similar character design sheets to share their original characters, and they've gotten comments from people that give either constructive criticisms or they show their approval and like of the characters. Overall, original characters serve as a participatory and creative outlet for fans of superhero cinema and any films at all, whether shared through fanfiction or fan art. Superhero cinema in particular is an attractive subject for original characters due to its immense world building, group-focused structure, and wish fulfillment narratives. Social media and the internet facilitate the sharing of these characters and makes them closer to the original canon work, thus allowing fans to actively participate in the creation of meaning and interact with others that have the same interests as them. In the end, superhero cinema is not only consumed by fans, but fandom on the internet, communities, and original characters allow them to help partake in it. And now that we understand all that, it's time to see what all the excitement's about. So I'm going to be working on some websites to come up with my own original superhero, and I'll bring you guys along. Okay, so the first thing to consider for my original character is their name. So I have a random name generator here, and I have feminine chosen as the gender because I want it to kind of resemble myself in that way. So I will check that, and then I'm only making one because this is going to be my one and only name, and I'll press generate. So the name I came up with is Christine. So my original character is going to be named Christine. U in the MCU, which basically randomly gives you a backstory, and so for our name it's going to be Christine. Let me check if it's okay. It's a K, I forgot. And then I'm going to diagnose, so let's see what Christine's backstory is. Okay, I have the browser open now, and this is the backstory for Christine. So Christine gained their powers from a meteor falling on them. Christine possesses the power of super strength. Their powers are strong enough to destroy a planet. In addition, they use everything around them as a weapon. During their life, Christine became close friends with Odin and often worked together with Okoye. However, Christine's mortal enemy is Karl Mordo. They have battled 10 times. Despite being an AI, Christine has feelings for Sam Wilson. They are now dating. You should remember that Christine was saved by Star-Lord. During the Infinity War, Christine got snapped. When resurrected, they didn't get called by Strange to participate in the final battle. Okay, so there is a lot here. I think that we can definitely choose specific parts that make sense, and I think being an AI is really weird and strange since she got her powers by a meteor falling on her, so I'm just going to discard that, as well as the Star-Lord, Okoye, and Odin things, since those are completely different franchises, and I think that the Sam Wilson part, he's Falcon, I think we can use that, as well as the super strength and the meteor, as well as Christine being snapped during Infinity War, and that will be her general story. But now that we have Christine's character and her backstory, we need to come up with her appearance. So I have a superhero tar. Basically, you can make your own avatar for your superhero, and usually if someone was making an original character, they would like draw a picture. I don't really want to do that. I'm not the best artist, so we're gonna go with the superhero avatar here because it is designed for making superheroes. So I'm just going to, get what I think Christine would look like, and then we will come back and I'll share. Okay, here is my completed image. This is the avatar for Christine, and she has super strength. You can see she has very defined muscles. I did find that was an issue because I feel like the options were either like the character has very large boobs or they have muscles. And I wanted her to have muscles because she has super strength. I also gave her kind of pastel colors. Those are just a personal preference. And she also has a pet bird. I think this would be really like an interesting kind of reference to her relationship with the falcon, although it's a parakeet in this picture. But anyway, this is the original character Christine. So what was that all about? Basically, I think it was really an interesting exercise to see what's so enjoyable about creating an original character, because I had a lot of fun. Although a lot of the information came from random generators, I also was able to put a bit of my own creativity in there when making the character design. If I were to go off and write a fan fiction about Christine's character, I would have a really good jumping off point with the backstory and character design that I have chosen just now. And also it'd be a really interesting way to kind of comment on and change some of like the Captain America films, especially the new like Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. I could have Christine kind of play a role in that, because in my fanfiction she would be of course dating him, so it would play a role in that as well. And I think that's really interesting because you can also say a lot and you can also bring up a lot of topics that aren't addressed in the original story. So I think that original characters, and especially original superheroes, are really, really interesting and a really fun concept. So that was kind of the whole point of this, also just to show how big of an influence superhero cinema has had and how big of an influence the internet has had as a whole in the circulation of original characters and participation in fandom and not just consumption of media. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It has been a long one, and that is all. Bye!